Hi, my name is Carrie McNabb. Today I'm going to be talking about management reports, how to develop them, how to deliver them, and how to get the best value out of that precious time that you have with the teams that you support. I'm going to start by taking us through 5 A's that will ensure success to this process. So the first A that we're going to look at is automation. So depending on the tools that you use or the software that you use, you'll have different levels of reports coming out of your system. So this could be anything from small organizations using a set of spreadsheets and exports from bank statements to larger organizations using ERPs like NetSuite and SAP. So depending on the tools that you use, you're going to have, a different starting point, but the same advice applies. You want to set yourself up for success every single month by ensuring that you have the least amount of touch between the reports that are coming out of the system to the reports that are going in front of the teams that you support. This is for a couple reasons, but primarily you really want to ensure that the information you're delivering is timely, accurate, up to date, and ensuring that there's the least amount of sort of manual manipulation required. Not only does it save you time, but also ensures that you're able to deliver that information to those teams in a timely manner. So you'll have to work with the other finance teams within your organization to know what their cutoff point is. So at the end of every month, at the end of every quarter, there is going to be a day where all of the books need to be locked down. That means things like reconciliations need to be done, journal entries need to be entered, all of that stuff needs to be done. And as soon as that day comes and passes, you can then run the reports that you have out of the system. So taking that into consideration, from that point to when you are going to meet with your teams, what is the least amount of time possible that you need? So in order to really shrink that time down, adding automation into the process, setting up your spreadsheet so that, using pivot tables, using macros, you're really just pulling that information in and putting it in the output style that you've developed with that team to make sure it's ready to go. The other reason that this is really important takes us to our second A, and that is accuracy. The less touch that you have to those numbers between coming out of the system and going into your reports will ensure that your information is the most accurate as possible. So the less you need to manipulate that data, the less susceptible it is to human error, which is inevitable. So really driving down that touch so that you can ensure that accuracy. Other things that you can do to ensure accuracy is building within those models, building within your reports, different checks and different balances to ensure that those numbers are as they should be. So for example, if you've got a balance sheet report, you want to make sure your assets plus your liabilities equal your equity. You can have a little line somewhere in the spreadsheet where if that's out of balance, it'll flag it up so that you can see that right away. Building those sort of checks within your reports will really set you up for success. And the reason that this accuracy is so important is because when you have reports that are going out to your teams, either late or inaccurate, that really erodes the trust that those teams have in the numbers, in the finance team, because it all of a sudden sort of gives them the impression that, these numbers don't matter, these numbers have no value, if they can just be whatever they are. So really making sure that accuracy is paramount to this process to help reinforce that trust and reinforce that bond with the teams that you support. And that brings us to our next A, which is audience. So the reports that you've built up with your team will need to take into consideration the information that they find the most valuable to their needs. So, the reports that you develop for, say you support a sales team, is going to be very different than the reports that you develop for the marketing team. The bones of the report may stay the same, but on your summary page, for example, you might have a collection of KPIs, and you'll have developed those KPIs with the teams when you had developed their budget, maybe in previous meetings. You'll really need to get a sense of what is the information that is most important to them. So if you support a sales team and they need to hit a certain sales target this year, putting that front and center, putting that in prominence will really make sure that their eyes are going to the important things for them, but also for you, because presumably if it's important to them, it needs to be important to you. Their feedback on those numbers, their feedback on those variances are going to reinforce or influence the direction that you take your analysis of their team. And that brings us to our next A, which is action. Between meetings, you'll have several action items that will need to be implemented based on the conversations that you have. So for example, if one of the teams that you support is really underspend in a specific area, like their training budget, maybe an action for them will be to go away and line up some training for their team. On the other side, one of the actions might be for you. Maybe they need greater insight into maybe the return on investment of one of the campaigns that they've just run, or the conversion rate of certain stages within the pipeline. So those action items will come about from your conversation, and because you're the finance business partner, because you're the business partner, it's important for you to keep track of those action items, following up on them. You might even want to send them, of course, after the meeting, but also a week before your next meeting. Say, hey, these were the action items we talked about last meeting. We're going to talk about them when we meet next week. So things like that. You want to make sure that these meetings remain relevant and productive, and that they're not just a information dump to the team that you're supporting, but that they're actually driving real change and performance and action after the fact. I've actually included a Notion template that you can use for these meetings to help keep track of those actions, to keep all of your notes in one place so that it's easy to keep track of them and refer to them, and even share with the team if that's something that you want. So I'll include that Notion template in the link of this video. So if that's something that you would find valuable, please feel free to use it. So the last A we're going to talk about is analysis. So this will be throughout all the other A's that we've already talked about, in the idea that you want to extract value from the numbers. And this is where you, as the finance person, will really shine in this role, because you will have to know all of the details behind these numbers and what it means. So when you put these budgets together, there's probably certain cyclical natures to some of the numbers that you've put into the budget, and you'll need to keep that in the back of your mind when you're talking about overspend or underspend. So for example, if you know that your sales targets, let's say your revenue targets are below where you need to be at Q2, but you know that you've got a lot of activity planned in Q3, so you can say then to the team that you support, look, we're underspent by this percentage. We've got this target to hit in Q3. If you can make it here, then we'll be able to bridge that gap and close that gap between the numbers. Is that something you think that you can do? So those are the kind of conversations that you'll really want to drive through the analysis of these numbers. So what I like to do is I'll create a column that I just call the latest estimate. And it basically takes the numbers from the budget, for the annual budget, and it drives them up or down based on the actuals to date. So for me, this replaces, some organizations will do like a quarterly reforecast. I like to just keep it sort of built in with the actuals, because you'll be aware of certain things that are changing. Maybe a really big customer leaves and churns out of the organization, so you'll have to take that out of your top line revenue growth. Maybe there is an event that happens every year that got canceled, so you'll take that out. So you'll just update that latest estimate column every month in advance of these meetings, so that you can say, look, this is where we're at year to date, this is where we're at Q2, this is where we're going to go if we continue on this trajectory. What can we do to influence those numbers? So that's really where the heart of that analysis comes through, is bringing additional context to the numbers that you're just presenting. This is the facts, these are the numbers, this is what we've done, but this is where we're going. This is where we're headed if we don't do this, or if we continue to do this. So that is really where you'll extract the most value from these conversations. So I hope this was helpful to you. Again, please feel free to check out that resource that I've included in the description of this video. And if you have any questions about management reporting, or developing those reports, or delivering those reports, or having these meetings, please let me know. I'm always happy to chat. Thank you very much. Have a good day.